Hi, welcome to another post play. This is the Carpet Stacker, and this time we're going to take a look at time stories. This is the post play where I'm just going to give my first impressions of the game after the first run through, and see if I have any insights and also answer some frequently asked questions. So, this is a spoiler free post play. So, let's go ahead and get into it. I will call Time Stories a narrative scenario-based cooperative game. So it is scenario-based because you're actually picking out these modular modules. What the first story is about going to asylum. The other one is called the Marcy case. The narrative or the story of the game is really tied down to the mechanics and what you have to do in the game. So that's why I call it more of a narrative-based game, even though there is there is a game in it, but the story unfolds as you experience the game. My first playthrough, and I guess my going to be my only playthrough through this game, was with three people. You get a little small bonus for it, but I don't think it really changes much, except that you're playing with just three people. We play with the scenario that came with the game, which is the asylum scenario, but I can't reveal anything more than that. I think what I get a lot out of this game is that it has a lot of similarities between a point and click adventure computer game, and these are like a Monkey Island, which I have not played, but Siberia, Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people, all those kind of things, and that you have to go to like different places and explore. So the game, there's a lot of exploration in the game and trying to understand, what's going on in this place, and once you found like an item, you get to go ahead and the item might have be a clue or our key to open somewhere else in the game. So you're going back and forth sometimes, and then but in this game it is different because I would say the overarching like kind of like time theme is that each game is like a session inside the in the scenario. So you go in, you explore, you're trying to solve it as best as you can, but if you can't, you go back into the future, and then you get to re-explore that scenario again. You'll do better, hopefully you'll do better and try to solve it that way. So you may have to go through it more than once. I'm going to say that you're probably going to go through it more than once. I guess the other thing is that what I like about the game is that you're trying to find there is a story in it that you're trying to figure out. It is a mystery. At least this one is, and I think most of them are mysteries anyway. But you're trying to find out what's going on here first, and you're trying to complete your mission, which is I will not disclose that to you, but you must complete your mission and get back in time, and then the people at the other end will be happy. But anyway, the story. So I think it's written very well, and it's not just the flavor text of the game, but also the art is done very well. You'll be surprised how the art actually goes in the game, how much thought of the art goes in the game. So like it's actually functional because just like in a point and click game, you have this layout, and then you see like some features on it. So there might be like I guess a nurse on it, or like a picture or painting. Then you go ahead and explore that area. But this is the most intriguing part is that you don't read the card. You actually experience it. And what I mean by here is that when you go ahead and go to that place, and if you're the only person there, you actually just look at the card yourself. But when you do, you read that card to yourself, and you actually experience that card. So in the back of the card, there might be some very simple stuff like just only flavor, or it could just be like a test you have to complete, or it could be an opponent you have to get rid of. Hopefully you don't run most into those. But after you look at the card, you're going to relay that message to the other people. You don't reread or read anything on that card. You just go ahead and relay it, like speaking as you had experienced that card, and that's really cool. The you get like these kind of conversations, like what's happening here, or did you what happened there, or if you're like and a person's like fighting you, it's like, oh, please help me here. So that's really cool. I guess the game is actually quite simple. The mechanics of it. The I was hoping for a bit more longer game, but for our first playthrough, and this is not just like one game, but this is like completing a game. My game group did it in about 2 hours, and that's with 3 people. We had the previous game group that I only taught to play it finish it in about, I would say, 4 hours, and that's longer. And I think they were one of the difference in those games was that the first group that when I taught was more immersed in the theme, and you're like talking about what's going on here. Some people got freaked out with the images, so it is a little frightening, but it's I could handle it, but some people cannot. But I think the game really elevates higher if you actually think about it as a storytelling game and trying to be one of those agents that try to solve the mystery. But going back to my negative thought, it's just a little too short, and for the money that is given to that game, it's I don't think it's almost worth it. But then again, the experience and the story actually kind of brings that back up. So even though you're going to play this a couple of times, I think it's worth the money anyway, because the experience and the story you get out of it is pretty cool. And I guess with the other part of the the game, the things that came in the game, I just actually wish that there are actually more scenarios in the game. You only get one, and you have to buy expansions for it, so that's a little bit negative for me. But I just wish that the game actually had more expansions, or at least more modules or scenarios in the game. So one of the things I don't really care about, but if I were going to do it, I would actually do the game as we play it. But one of the players I was playing it want to look at the cards after defeat the game. I guess that's fine. I'm like pretty unsure. I looked at the card anyway, so but after the game you feel like you don't really need to explore it or play it anymore. But I think there's still some stuff in there too where is this worth exploring. It's like like in an event, a click and point adventure game that there are some things that you might have missed, but it's kind of fun to actually go ahead and re-explore it and do it yourself instead of just picking out cards and just I think spoiling it that way. There's been people saying around that it's a consumable game. I personally don't think it's a consumable game because I think legacy games are consumable, but they have it's a different way of how the product goes from point A to point B. For games like Pandemic Legacy or Brisk Legacy, you will be destroying cards, and you can actually make up for those lost items. You could technically, but once those cards are lost, it's lost, and it kind of like changes the game. You can't actually reset it. In Time Stories, you can actually reset it and go back. The only thing you lose is probably the experience of the game, the story of the game. Time Stories has it different because you're not actually ripping up cards or changing the game entirely. You're actually you're just exploring. You're not actually changing anything. You're just exploring the game, and the exploring part, which is your experiences, actually is consumed that way, and you cannot re-experience that anymore. And it's consumed that way, not like in a legacy game where the game does change. You have to write on stuff, and you have to change cards or rip up cards like that. So I will not call this a consumable game. I don't know what to call it, but when you do realize when you buy it, it's like watching a movie or reading a book. You're not going to get that surprise anymore of it, but you can replay it. But for that reason, I don't think that Time Story is a consumable game. Now I don't know anyone that actually beat it on their first try. That would be amazing and a miracle, but you're probably not going to beat it the first try. And don't feel bad about it. I haven't beat it in my first try anyway. So, but I think the game actually kind of works better as like you made a fault in the game, you go back and restart it, reset it. Go ahead and try to do it better. Once if you failed it, you want to get better, and this kind of game just like when you re-enter it, when you know some information, you go ahead and try to do it better. And you're exploring, but you're going a little quicker, and the game's actually much more fun that way. Now, I don't know if anyone actually gave out the story of the game, except that I was just gonna say it's taking place in an asylum. It's that the not only the story is sensitive, if I would tell you out now, but some the game is tied in to some of that story elements of finding items and stuff. So I don't want to ruin it for you, but because there are some surprises in there of what the game does. So and that's why I'm not doing a spoiler video, and I just want to tell you how what the game is about. When you purchase the game, you're really purchasing for two things. The first thing is the product of the game, so that's all this stuff like the markers, the cards, the tokens, and the other part is the experience, which you will consume, but will actually but you take away from the game. I think the components actually are pretty good. You got these really thick wooden markers, so they kind of look like this, really thick. Yeah, there's thicker than and stuff, but the game actually looks sleek, and I think the design of the game, in the art and the stuff and the cards, I think actually justifies what you're paying for it. So the other part is experiences. So this is like watching a movie for the first time. But if for $50 for the whole thing, I think it's not a bad price. And though for the expansions, I think are just quite a little on the higher side, especially if each expansion is going to be about $30 US. And with those expansions, you only get cards, and it's like, and especially when it comes in a bigger box when it shouldn't be, because you only get a couple, like two decks of the cards in that big of box. So this is the box right over here, and then the cards. So that's the only thing you get. So $30 is a little steep on the higher side, but I haven't played this yet, so I'm gonna see what's going on. But it looks like the story is gonna be a little bigger, because if you see, this is. Maybe I can go ahead and grab this. It's about. Yeah, it is actually bigger, but then this is the silent case. This is the Marcy case. So I guess a little bigger story. Hopefully, it is gonna be different. The art is different, so you have a different experience with that. And again, I think the reason why you would actually buy a game that you can only play like at least like one time is the story. Why would you buy a book? Because of the story. Or why would you watch a movie? Because of the story. You want to experience that story, even though you know that you don't actually go in the story and it's like, oh, I'm going to go read the story, and I'm hoping that next time I would enjoy it even better. Sometimes some people do. We'll get that, but when you go in the story, you just want to know what's in it, what's about, and that's it. So would I recommend this game? And I would say yes, because it's actually that good of a game, and it's not the game part. It's actually the whole over experience, the story and the game, how it kind of coexists together, and that. Even though you will play this like only about one time, I think it's well worth the money spent for it. And the other thing I have to say is like you kind of treat this like a book or a movie, and that if you own it, let it out, borrow it, let someone else borrow it, let them enjoy it as well. But if you know someone who has it, ask them. They could ask them if you can borrow it. I think that's all I have to say. So, thank you for watching and enjoying this post play. You can go ahead and give a like at the bottom. You can go ahead and subscribe. Visit us on our patron page to support us. You can go ahead and follow us on Twitter and keep on stacking games.